Welcome back to Landline Chats. I'm so glad you're here. On these next two episodes, we're actually going to do a two-part series with my brother Aaron. He's one of the most inspirational people that I know. I'm so excited. On the first episode, he's going to interview me. We're going to talk about Landline Chats and how it all got started. On the second episode, we're going to interview my brother, and we're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about mentorship. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So come hang out and let's chat.
Kiki, dude, I'm so excited to be here. This is a little role reversal for Landline Chats. Mm-hmm. I'm super excited because so far, I know you've just started this.
Yes.
But this is a project that is really cool to see you moving forward with, because it's really kind of the culmination of something I've heard you talk about for a lot of years, which is just trying to find a way to put some of these conversations on display with some of your people and your friends that really have inspired you and helped you along the way. So tell me a little bit about Landline Chats and like where this first started to like emerge as something that was in your heart that you wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important thing is this has really been helping me find my voice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm coming up on like 42 now, and I've just felt so freaking lost my entire life.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I've started to learn about myself is that I just really love to connect with people. Throughout my life, it's like I've just really struggled with my mental health and anxiety and depression. And, I don't know. I've had so many incredible conversations with people that have really helped me through so many of my tough times, but also that have helped inspire me to do things that I want to do and step outside of my comfort zone. This is wildly outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. I mean, it's like this, if it's just like at a coffee shop and it's just, me and my friend or somebody else, I'm totally fine. I thrive. But the second you put a camera on me, I'm just like,
which is so funny to me.
Hide behind the couch.
Which is so funny to me because that's not how people experience you. It's not how you present. Like when people experience you, they're like, oh man, like Kiki feels like larger than life. You've got this really cool style about you. I feel like you're like the kid when we were growing up that like if a spotlight came on, you might like push the other kid out of the way and like do a song and dance in front of people. Heck yeah. You didn't even let me share your friends. If we had friends, you're like, that's my friend, So like, for me, I'm like, it's so funny to hear you as an adult, like process through like this being uncomfortable to you, because I feel like you always come across as really confident. I feel like you're such a people person that when others encounter you, they would experience probably the courageous side of you or the bold side of you. But really, it's actually been a big journey just to get here.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective and the conversations we've had over the years, and the journey's been about self-confidence.
1,000%.
So tell me more about that, because I think what happens is people see others who do things like this and they just assume, oh, they just have their shit together.
Sure.
They just, of course Kiki's going to have an amazing podcast. What they don't recognize is like, actually, you have a journey that you had to go through before you got here. There was all this internal conflict that you had to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's, you hit it right on the nose, as far as, confidence goes. I mean, I don't know. I feel like my outfit, I know that sounds so funny, but like half of me feels so confident. And then the other half of me just feels like I'm a fucking disaster. But I mean, it kind of started, I think, like, I don't know, in high school, getting teased. And I've always been such a sensitive person. You know this. Atlas knows this.
Atlas is our brother.
Yeah, Atlas is, my other amazing brother over here. And I've always been really sensitive. And I used to think of that as just a weakness. And that's what was taught to me growing up.
Sure.
It's just like sweeping everything under the rug, not really, talking about, your insecurities or your fears or anything like that. And so, but also growing up, and I'm sure, I know we can all relate to this, but I didn't have anybody. I didn't really feel like I had anybody cheering me on or teaching me how to like explore, things that I was interested or anything like that, And so it has been, I mean, it's been a crazy journey of me, getting to this spot, but overcoming a lot of anxiety and depression. And I still struggle with those things, but
Well, before you move on and like talk about that, like you just said something to me that was, I'm just realizing is a theme in your life. Is you said you never had anyone teach you how to explore some of those things, but like when you were in your 20s or even in your 30s, like just because you said that, I'm like, that's totally what you've been. Is you've been an explorer,
which is
like
crazy.
more than me by far. I mean, I'm of everyone in the family, I've been the most like in one place person.
Yeah.
But like Atlas went into the military and saw a lot of the world. You at like a young age were like, you moved to Seattle, you went to LA, you went to San Diego, you've done all these different things, and sometimes it's been successful and sometimes it's been just a complete and utter shit show.
Sure.
It's been a little bit of all of it.
Yeah.
But along the way, like you have had, this is consistent about you, that you've had this inner drive to explore and understand yourself. And I think that part is very honorable, but it's also very messy, and it has been messy.
It's been so messy.
But that messiness to me has also probably, at least from my perspective of you, you seem to have this really sincere compassion for other people. Like you really you have the ability to love people where they're at without judgment, but also to still speak the truth. Like people seem to come and talk to you consistently and get your perspective. And I think that's because of your journey.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have lived a lot of life, and I've experienced, honestly, just a lot of trauma, and I mean, a lot of like trial and error. And I think it feels absolutely incredible to be where I'm at now, because I finally feel like I'm like, okay, cool. I know who I am as a person. I know what my purpose is. I know, what I want to do, and it's, but yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to hear that perspective, because growing up, with our dad being a pastor, I was the oldest, the only, girl, a daughter, and I was the black sheep. I mean, I was getting in all sorts of trouble.
You were, if there was a trap, you were going to walk into it.
I was like, yeah, let's go. I mean, just super, super reckless. But I think it's just been this crazy journey it's just been a really crazy journey of actually liking me, like liking and loving myself.
I think what would be sad is if you had gone through all of that stuff, because you really were reckless. High school, after high school. I mean, there's a good decade and a half almost of you being pretty freaking reckless. And I think it would be really sad if you had done all of that but never found your voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool thing. Landline Chats is like an iceberg.
Right.
This is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to Kiki than just Landline Chats. But I love that you're doing this and taking a risk, because I think so many people just live in their past.
Yeah.
Their past is bigger than their future. Right. And I feel like you're shifting into this place where you're going, no, my future is bigger than my past. And actually there's things I can learn from there that can help others. And that's a beautiful thing.
Well, and everything that I've just been through in my life, the trauma, the heartbreaks, my internal struggle with myself. And I think for the longest time, like I just really felt like such a loser, because I was just like, I saw all these people, for my experience growing up in church, it was like all eyes on me as like the only daughter, and constantly having to be, I felt like I was sort of put on this pedestal, and I was expected to be perfect, and obviously perfect doesn't exist, and so a lot of that held me back from exploring, something like this. It's like I always saw other people doing, watching you, speak up and, help other people. And I wanted to do things like that, but I felt so timid because I felt so worried about how I looked or how I was going to be perceived, or, you know, just fear of judgment of other people. And I think that's because I just didn't have a strong foundation with myself and believing in like who I was, or even appreciating myself. And so, you know, through my life experience, and just to kind of like tap into what you were saying before, I felt so like unseen for most of my life. I felt, you know,
It's funny that you felt that, because I also think you're probably about the most seen person that I like. What's funny is,
but
you
when I was
felt,
younger, I didn't feel that way,
I know, but it wasn't true.
which is so interesting.
Because I think like you're like
But-
forever, even years after you lived in Reading, people be like, "Oh, you're Kiki's brother." That was still a thing,
Right.
For like, I'm talking like a decade after you were gone.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's funny is the narrative we have in our head versus reality.
Sure.
But you know, that's true for a lot of people. It's true for most of us. Is we have something we're telling ourselves, and
Yeah.
actually, Brene Brown calls it a conflabration.
Yeah.
It's a lie told truthfully. Your emotions were true. You felt unseen, and you really did. You felt,
Yeah.
that's what you felt.
Yeah.
But the truth might have been different. But that's okay, because now you're in this journey of alignment,
Yeah.
where the alignment gets to come into play, and now you get to like walk in truth
Yeah.
of who you are.
Yeah.
And face those lies straight on and do bold things like starting this podcast.
Yeah. No, and it's just super exciting, but I did feel that way. I did feel like, because I was so sensitive, I got so teased, but now I got teased all the time.
Right.
And so, you know, and people were just like, "Oh my gosh, she just cries all the time." But as I'm older, now I realize that my sensitivity is a superpower. I am
Totally.
a true empath,
Yeah.
through and through. And, you know, and so it was one of those things that I kind of realized, because I felt invisible, even though that was my perspective.
Yeah.
I never wanted anybody around me to feel that way.
Yeah.
And I never wanted anybody to feel like they weren't, you know, understood, or I just wanted people to feel like they mattered, because I didn't feel like I mattered. And so that was just something that was super important to me. And, you know, just to kind of talk about what you were saying before, it's like, I do, for the most part, like I have boundaries now because I need to take care of myself. But, I have sort of found that people have come to me, you know, for like problems, or if they just want to talk, or, you know, I don't know. And that's something that's so important to me in my life, is whoever is like I get to spend time with, I do want to make sure that I'm really intentional with them, and so that they feel loved, so that they feel heard.
Yeah.
And I really want people just to know that they matter. And, you know, just kind of like starting Landline Chats, it was one of those things where I was just having these conversations that were so impactful to me in my journey. I'm going to cry. It was just so impactful to me in my journey, because I've just experienced like so many lows in my life, having those moments where you're just like, I don't want to be alive anymore.
Yeah.
And so many people really struggle with that, and really trying to find,
It's good.
trying to find your purpose in life, when you just feel like you can't go on anymore.
Yeah.
And the people that I've had conversations with really helped me get through that, but also just inspired me. It was just like these people doing big things, and impacting, having a big impact on other people has just always resonated with me, and honestly just really kept me going. And, and so that was just one of those things where I was just like, man, I want to share these conversations with other people, because not everybody has, it's a huge act. It's very courageous to kind of step out and ask for help or open up and be vulnerable. And it's something that I feel being vulnerable, it's like a a blessing and a curse for me. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
sometimes I tend to be like vulnerable with the wrong people. You know what I mean?
Right.
That like don't deserve to see that side of me. You know, but at the same time, I want to set an example of what vulnerability looks like, you know,
Yeah.
with boundaries. And, you know, and that was just kind of the idea behind doing Landline Chats, is just to inspire people. And, you know, whether they end up talking to somebody or not, just not feeling alone
Yeah.
and being seen and heard. And I've just met so many incredible people that I will never forget.
I think there's a lot of people that really do trust you because of your vulnerability, you know? I mean, even just thank you for your vulnerability right now. I mean, obviously this comes from your heart, you know, like, and I think that's what makes the difference. You know, it's like there's a lot of people who are professionals and can do stuff because they have a skill set.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between having a skill set and then having that skill set align with like the core of who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's just a lot of alignment on this for you. It's cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even there's intentionality like in the name, like Landline Chat.
Yeah.
It's not cell phone chat.
No.
It's like Landline Chat. Of course,
Yeah.
we're children of the 90s.
Straight up.
And like we are the generation where cell phones started to show up.
Right.
But we're also the generations before that where there was pagers and there was these things called telephone booths.
Yep.
Like
Oh my
you had to
gosh.
be like intentional
Yes.
to be at a phone at a certain place. And so I like that it's called Landline Chats, because I'm like, dude, that's like, we are like there's an intentionality
Yeah.
to these conversations
Yeah.
that to grow. I mean, because really you and I have talked so much about like personal growth, and you can't grow personally on accident.
Right.
You know, like it takes intention.
Yes.
Just like with a landline, it takes intention to be at a place to answer the phone. Where cell phones, you can just be anywhere.
Right.
But I like the intentionality of that, and I feel like
I
that's
love it that you get that. Yeah.
the shift that you're in. Of like you've really been shifting out of just even just doing things for others or doing things to please others, but doing things with intention,
Yeah.
and that's what you've really been focusing on, and then taking these conversations and putting them on display. To me is like this has so much weight to it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, talking about the name Landline Chats, it's funny because it's like, I'm somebody who one of my love languages is quality time.
Yeah.
I just like, I feel the most loved when somebody is like, takes time out of their schedule to like hang out with me, have good conversation, you know, and it's like, we're all guilty of it, just sitting on our cell phones all the freaking time. But it's like, I miss, you know, there's part of those days that I miss that it's just like,
Yeah.
you know, you do, it's like, oh my gosh, like so-and-so's going to call me at this time and I have to be home. And, you know, now I know most of us, we sit on our cell phones and we talk, but we're also scrolling,
Yeah.
you know, and when you can't multitask, you're not listening. You
Yeah,
know
you're
what I
here
mean?
but not here.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, that was something that was super important to me. But
I had this dad, and we had taken our boys to a Kings game, a basketball game.
Yeah.
And I remember all the kids were on their phones, and then I was on my phone, he was on his phone, and he looked at me and he's like, what do you think is going to be the outcome of these, like, on society?
yeah,
And, you know, I know he was feeling kind of negative about it in the moment, but I was trying to think about it from a positive perspective. Is what I told him is I said, I really believe that what's going to happen is in the long run, the people who know how to be present with others, people are going to start hunting and searching for them, because it's going to be like this. They're going to look for the sages who know how to be present with one another,
yeah,
because they're going to have a wisdom that you can't get from always being plugged in, that you can only get from knowing how to be real with other human beings.
Yeah.
It's becoming a rare thing.
it really is.
Like, it's just becoming a rare thing. Like, I think like if someone said, what's the first step I need to take to become a leader or to make a shift, I would say, learn how to be present with people. I feel like that's something that you do really well. And I'm excited for Landline Chats because you're featuring people who also do that really well.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's just have just been, I mean, I've connected with these people on social media and we've just so happened to become friends and,
Yeah.
you know, I love it. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter how we met, you know, but I don't know. And it's just been so cool too, because it's like, I don't know, you just don't, sometimes I've just linked up with the most unexpected people, you know, that have just like impacted me in the biggest way. And I'm just like, what the heck?
I will say you have like one of the most eclectic group of friends of like anybody I know.
Yeah.
You have like friends who are like importers of rugs. You have had friends that are like famous musicians. You have friends that are like cutting hair. You have friends that are artists. Like you have friends of all walks of life. And so that's one of the things I'm actually looking forward to for Landline Chats is like every person that you have on is like so vastly different.
Yeah.
It's like that variety is like the spice of life,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's so boring if you only interview people that are just look like you and already talk like you. You have like crazy friends.
I mean,
Crazy in the best way. I don't mean like insane,
yeah, no,
but-
literally the best way. I mean, I think one of the things is that I value with the people that are in my life is everybody does really bring something so different to the table, but they also challenge me, you know, in my perspective and the way that I think. And, you know, I have a lot to unlearn and I have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And so I try to kind of just like keep myself open, you know, and I don't know.
If you had like 3 things that you wanted people, like if you're like, people can only walk away with 3 things from listening to like the first, you know, the first round of Landline Chats, what are 3 things that you hope people would like just pick up by listening to these conversations?
I mean, I would hope that people would listen and feel brave enough to be more vulnerable.
Okay.
I hope that people will feel inspired
Yep.
to step out of their comfort zone.
Yep.
And I just hope that, you know, I just hope that people feel seen, even if they're just at home watching this, you know, that they're just like, oh my gosh, somebody understands me. Somebody knows what I'm going through. You know, somebody gets me.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
like vulnerable, inspired, and seen. And it's funny that you use the word seen for a podcast because we can't actually see them.
Yeah.
But I do think they're like what we were talking about is like the story that you have. Like when there's going to be people who, when they hear your story, the only person who could unlock their story is them hearing yours because they're like, oh my gosh, she's living my life. Like I had this moment, I was listening to this, to this like really famous, I'm not going to say who it is because I'll sound like a freaking egotistical retard, but this person who's like super famous for like life coaching people and stuff. And I was watching this thing he was doing and I literally was like, he is me. I am him. I was like, he literally just said something I said to someone yesterday and I've never been to any of his trainings or anything. And I was like, part of me got so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, there's hope for the things that I want to do. And I think like that is like, even though I didn't talk to him, he doesn't know my name and he'll probably never know my name. I felt seen.
Yeah.
I felt seen because his story unlocked something in mine.
Yeah.
And I like that that's one of your things because I think that's actually one of your gifts.
Yeah.
Like you see people. So I think like even the things you're talking about, like dealing with anxiety and overcoming and even the people that you're going to feature, like I think there's going to be artists who are going to feel seen.
Yeah.
And like understood for like the first time.
Yeah.
And I love that about you because you seem to do that with people.
I mean, it's honestly like not intentional, but I think that it's a gift that I've had since I was super young because
It's not intentional because it's like so authentic to you.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I remember, I actually have this interesting story that I remember from when I was really young, but you remember when we were living in Weaverville
Okay.
and we were at, was it First Baptist Church? I don't know, whatever.
It was a small mountain town.
Yeah, super small mountain town. I mean, Weaverville.
Yeah,
Let's say
Weaverville.
less.
Weaver Willie.
Yeah, seriously. But I remember when Dad there was a funeral and there was that part of the church that you could like go up to the top where the sound booth was, you know,
Yeah.
and like look down. And he was, you know, doing a funeral and this woman had committed suicide. And I think I was like, I don't know how old I was when we were there, but I was listening to the story and it was heartbreaking. You know, I don't specifically remember the story, but I remember at that age, my heart literally, I was up there with my covering my mouth crying.
Yeah.
And my heart just broke. And I was just, you know, thinking like, you know, hoping that, I don't know, I was just like, my wheels were just turning that whole time because I was just, it made me so sad that she felt, you know, like she needed to take her life and at such a young age. And so it was like moving forward from that, you know, whenever I would see anybody in any sort of like distress or pain, I wanted to help, you know, or I just wanted to like love them, you know. I don't know. I just wanted to like hug people and like love on people. And so I think like throughout my life, you know, it was one of those things where, again, like a blessing and a curse, like being sensitive, because people who are highly sensitive tend to get taken advantage of, you know, and it's kind of, you become an easy target if you don't practice, you know, boundaries. And so that's been a lesson that's just been really hard for me to learn. To be honest with you, I feel like I just learned about boundaries like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was kind of taken out in like dating relationships, just being in really toxic relationships and friendships too, you know, and it was just, but I never, the crazy thing was I was willing to sacrifice my happiness so that somebody else didn't feel bad.
Right.
Which is not okay, you know.
Right.
But now, you know, I've so, you know, just with all of that being said, it's just one of those things where I feel I feel grateful that people feel safe with me. And it's just something that I just don't take for granted because I know how it feels to be vulnerable with somebody. It's so scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
It's scary for more, like most people. For me, it's like I kind of shift in between, but I don't know. It's just something that I just don't take lightly, you know, because it takes a lot of courage for people to be open and vulnerable and share things that have happened to them, you know. And you know, I've had a lot of people create a safe space for me, and I want to create that space for other people. And, you know, again, that is just like, that was kind of my idea behind Landline Chats, was just having really incredible dynamic conversations that like inspire me, and with people that have done work on themselves, you know, because it's like, not everybody's just going to be vulnerable, you know, because it is scary. And, you know, I really believe that when you work on yourself, you're going to attract, you know, like how you are as a person. Right. And so the more that I heal and the more that I grow, I'm just like really, and the more that I protect myself and have boundaries, I'm just like naturally attracting really incredible people in my life, you know? And, I asked
a question earlier, which is like, hey, what do you want people to kind of experience? And you said, you know, you want them to be inspired, you know, you want for them to feel seen, you know, like seen. I want to shift that question just a little bit, just ask a little bit of a different question. As people listen to this first season, and as they begin to hear some of these things, what are some of the things you hope people will do because of it? Because I really think that that's the real potential for Landline Chats, is obviously these conversations are vulnerable and they're real. You're having conversations with people who've done some really cool stuff and have worked on themselves. What are you hoping people will do with it? Yeah.
That's such a good question. I think that my biggest goal, the thing that's really helped me propel forward is I got into therapy in my mid-20s, I want to say, more maybe late 20s. That changed my life. The first therapist that I ever saw was in San Francisco. His name was Alan Pleener. He was this old British dude who always had a cup of like English breakfast tea, like waiting for me.
That's
he
cool.
cursed like a sailor. He was the best. But he was a mindfulness therapist.
Okay.
And he taught me about self-awareness. And, it's just like so many people are just kind of walking around like reacting, and they don't know that they're reacting. They don't know why. They're not self-aware enough to know that they're, behaving a certain way. And so I think like through therapy, I just learned so much about myself. And, I don't know. I was just sort of like walking around. I was so miserable and sad. I mean, you remember my mid-20s?
Yeah.
My anxiety was out of control. I was passing out all the time. I was having migraines all the time.
It went into your 30s.
Yeah, it did.
It was like plaguing you for a really long time.
For really, really long. I mean, I couldn't drive for 3 months. So just to answer your question, I think one of the biggest things that I would love, to see or not see or just hope for is that people see this and really invest in themselves. Like invest in your mental health. If you have something that's like reoccurring going on in your life, it's like you kind of experience like the same things over and over again until you learn that lesson.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. And they're just like, a lot of people, I hear the narrative that it's like, this always happens to me. And it's like, okay, so why does this keep happening? You know what I mean? And that I was that person.
You're the constant in this scenario.
Exactly. And I was that person, And so I think the biggest thing for me would just for people just to kind of walk away and have a moment of self-reflection, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just like we all are sort of,
it's a part of growing.
It's just a part of growing, and, so I'd really love for people just to kind of like take a look at themselves and not in a negative way, but just say like, where can I grow? Where can I step out of my comfort zone? How can I help somebody else? Because, we've talked about this before, but it's like, I've acquired tools and I will continue to acquire tools to help me in my life and support like a healthy mindset and mental health. And I really want that for other people, and I want that to snowball. I really want for people to kind of learn something new and take that and teach somebody else, because it's like we could all just be helping each other.
Teachers learn the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could all just be like showing up for each other and like loving each other in healthy ways. And does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. I got another juicy question for you.
Oh boy.
Okay, I just want you to imagine that like money's no object, okay? Landline Chats is just freaking thriving. It blows up. Somehow Elon Musk watches it and is like, babe, and he talks to his wife, and her name is Zi Kappa Felta or whatever her name is,
They're not together. Grimes, they're not together anymore.
Oh, Grimes, whatever. And his son or daughter, he has a child named...
I have no idea.
Whatever. It's a symbol, so I don't know what to say. But, it gets tweeted out, and Joe Rogan thinks it's the greatest thing, and he starts talking about it, and like it blows up, okay? And everything's going really well.
Let's say Gary V.
Gary V. Gary V's like...
I love Gary V.
Gary V's like, Kiki, I love your hustle. Freaking amazing. And he comes
watch
in.
his stuff all the time.
Yeah, Gary V blows it up, and this whole Landline Chat goes nuts. Okay, like, so now the sky's the limit. You could, like, anything you could do, like, anything's possible. Where does this thing go? What happens with Landline Chats? What happens with you?
Ooh, okay, so I'm not going to act like I haven't dreamt about this because I totally have. Because I feel like dreaming is manifesting, but I mean, I would love to, I don't know, write a book or go on tour. I would push myself. The first podcast that we did was with my friend Earl, and what was the name of it was like pushing ourselves to the edge, like finding your edge. Yeah. And that was something that like really stuck with me. But like now that I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, I'm seeing my self-esteem and my self-worth really boost, and I'm like proud of myself. I'm like, you did that. Like,
Yeah.
good for you. So I want to continue to push myself. Oh my gosh. Thinking about an audience, like a huge audience, if there were people in here right now at this time in my life, I would feel sick to my stomach. I would be so nervous.
Really?
Yes, 1,000%. I get so shy. I don't know. I know I seem like extroverted, but I am a very shy. I feel shy sometimes. I don't know.
This is going to be gone.
Yes.
It's not going to be here much longer.
But I would love to go on a tour. Like Ray and I could go on a freaking tour and just bring on really cool guests. In the future, I'll be meeting, even more incredible people, that want to help other people. And I think I would probably like get into, I don't know, I think about the thing that's so important to me because I've struggled with it the most is my mental health,
Yeah.
depression and anxiety. And so many, and so many people suffer with this. And so, ideally, I would be touring, like maybe, put out a book. One of the things that I dream about is I talk about tools a lot. And I don't know, I think about things that, people can get their hands on,
Yeah.
that if they're having a rough day, I love to journal. I love to meditate. I've really, I've dreamt of like bringing on like somebody who would do like a guided meditation for like hundreds of people, and doing workshops and things like that, where people can come together and like, find a community where, it's so interesting because one of the things that I've challenged myself to do, like throughout like my 20s and 30s and now 40s, like, although I am shy, I can talk to a stranger, no problem.
Yeah, you can.
And one of my favorite things to do is to compliment people. I love to compliment people because I'm a little weird with compliments. I get kind of awkward, although I appreciate them. But if you compliment somebody, just randomly, like you can just really like see them light up. But when you start to like have random conversations with people, you start to learn like the things that you have in common with each other.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've kind of dreamt about is just like bringing like so many people together and having people just kind of like build communities with each other. And, I don't know, it's just so cool to me, like, seeing people kind of like come together and be able to comfort each other and support each other and hold each other accountable. And so I'm trying to think of anything else.
Well, I just want to say is like, I think that you're made for greatness. And I've watched you with a lot of people in a lot of different circumstances. And I just think that even now, I love your dreams. I think they're beautiful. I just think they're too small. And I feel like there's bigger things for you on your horizon, but you're taking, I feel like this is a first step towards what you're created to do. I do think that you see people in such a beautiful way. I think that these conversations have the potential to create a lot of breakthrough for people because I think people are going to find themselves in that story, in the people's stories that you're interviewing, but then also like in the vulnerability and the honesty of your story and where that intersects with these guests that you're going to have. And I think that from my perspective, looking out at you, I just go, there's so much opportunity for you to create a wave and a movement that does take into account people's emotional and mental health, and that takes it serious, but takes it serious in a way that doesn't make them feel like less than, but that gives them the courage to take the risk to do something about it. And I think that's just like on your life. I literally have seen you do the compliment thing with people. I've seen you do it with my wife and my daughter, and even with me and my kids, like all of my kids. Toby getting to come down here and be with you. By the way, like Kiki is not just good at the compliment thing. Like I think she's like world class at this. If you've ever seen Kiki, or if you've ever experienced Kiki, where she goes out and like takes you out shopping and like helps you like pick clothing, even because you are, I think like this is another thing I think about. Like you have the potential to be like a fashion icon type person. Like that is just in you. like you see things differently. You see the world different, and you see things that have potential where other people might just walk past it because you are an artist. You like, that's what an artist does. They take these things that are disconnected and they pull them together. And so, like, to me, I think this is part of your future too, is Landline Chats as a starting place. But I see you with things like a clothing line. I see you working with people who are famous and helping them to redefine their style, and to find a style that's true to who they are. Like, there's all these other things I see that I think are going to happen. And I think this is just the first building block.
I love that.
So
thanks for saying that.
Yeah. And I like truly mean that. I feel like, I mean, I think Atlas could probably say the same thing. It's like, we've watched you do this over and over and over again. And I just think your gifting is really unique and special.
Thank you.
So thank you for letting me be on this podcast and turn the tables a little bit. And as we kind of wrap up this podcast, of course, this is where you're kind of sharing about your vision. Is there anything else like you just would want people to know about Landline Chats and how they can, follow you and be more part of what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I am on Instagram. We're on Spotify, YouTube. Eventually we'll be on Apple Music. Yeah. Ray, my guy. Shout out to Ray.
Ray's amazing.
Ray's the freaking man. I know.
Yeah.
That's my guy. Yeah. And so, I'll be posting everything on there, and
cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So.
If you guys haven't had a chance to get on and follow Kiki on Instagram, it's not like Landline Chats is like one component of who you are, but like I said, that fashion piece, and Kiki is it's funny is right now because you're finding your voice.
Yeah, I am.
These conversations have been fairly more I don't want to say intense, but they're like more serious. You are not a serious person though. You are, but you're not. Like, you're super fun. You're super funny.
Yeah.
Like, you're a very bright person.
Thank you.
And so, like, I love that they're serious. I can't wait also to hear the fun, the goofy part of you, because there's a goofy side.
Well, it's funny though, because we talked about this, because remember when I was like trying to make like a little promo video and you're like, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I get so nervous. Ray knows this. I'm sweating right now, you guys. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I get so nervous in front of the camera, and I've always felt like I needed to present. One of my friends, DJ, when you posted that blooper video, or I posted that blooper video, he's like, I've never seen you goofy like that. And I was like, really? And I realized, because it's just like, I've started to become a little bit more aware that I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable if I'm not presenting myself perfect, which doesn't exist,
No.
And so, I was taking a walk with a friend a while back, and I was, following the rules, like not jaywalking and doing all this stuff, and there's no traffic, and he's like, you're so funny because you're so like prim and proper, like let's just cut across the street. But it really, that kind of like sat with me, because I have always been, I've just had control issues, because I'm like, I've never been super comfortable like stepping out of my comfort zone, and I'm just like, I need to have all my ducks in a row before I do this. And you're like, you've been talking about this for so long, just do it, and so many people have told me the same thing. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
This is alignment time. This is alignment time. Because if like, I feel like I know you since I've grown up with you,
Sure.
like,
yeah.
But like, there's a fun, lighthearted, goofy side that's really also very powerful.
Yeah.
And so I love seeing you be professional and like ask all these deep questions. But I also know like the real interplay of who you are is really fun and light too.
Yeah.
We're
goofy.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hayes family, we're a bunch of weirdos.
When all those things hit at the same time, like, I think it's going to be fire. And I think that's going to happen this season.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to hearing it. Yeah. Seeing it.
For sure.
Good job.
Thanks.
I'm proud of you, sis.
Thanks, brother. Love you.
Love you.